right, guys, what's up? Here with Jason Armstrong. And so, a little background Jason and I had already recorded an episode of this before. However, he had a dog snoring in the background. And so, we were just doing it on a Zoom call. And I said, let's just actually get into this in this podcast studio and we'll go from there. Because he's got a great story to share. And a little background from what I know of Jason is that he's now got a booming barbershop here in Mattoon, Illinois with how many barbers? Three barbers now in there? And, but the backstory of how he got here is pretty incredible. So, Jason, why don't you just start and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just kind of roll from there.
Sure. My name's Jason Armstrong. I will be 48 this July.
You don't look 48.
Hey, thank you. I'll take that. I'll take that. I've been a Mattoon resident my whole life. Came from a broken home, but, nothing crazy out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably the biggest lesson that I learned later on that started a lot of my problems from an early age was that from an early age, I found that we didn't talk about feelings in our house. We didn't talk about emotions in our house. We didn't talk about problems. So I found things that would numb the pain or take my mind off of it,
This is why I like you, because we're not even hitting singles here. We're just jumping. We're hitting home runs from the start. So I appreciate that, because that's what guys. We don't talk about feelings.
No,
we're like you said in your family. You were taught not to.
Yeah. Men were hard. Men were strong. Men fought if they needed to. Men defended their pack, and there's some loyalty and some good stuff in that, but this big misconception that men deal with their problems on their own is a huge problem, because the thing we try to deal with them on our own. And I think I was maybe in 5th grade, and I found my dad had a huge box of probably 20 years of Playboy. And so from a young age, I learned instant gratification.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
So when mom and dad fought and things got scary, I would retreat to my room and I would do whatever I could to just not be a part of the situation, not feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's led into, a long life of alcohol and drug abuse. The big one nobody wants to talk about is, pornography addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And just a life of struggle,
It's interesting. From a young age, you're learning how to cope with these problems. As children, we shouldn't have to deal with those things.
No,
we shouldn't be. You shouldn't find those things in 5th grade or whatever grade you're in. You shouldn't have to be numbing already at that age. But I can relate to that 100%. But so that started young.
Yeah.
And then as it progressed, what else was going on?
My parents got divorced when I was in 6th grade. And
do you think that affected you?
Oh, yeah. It was a horrible, horrible time in my life. It was a terrible divorce.
Really?
And I do want to say, I love you, Mom, but I got to be raw. And my father passed away in 2010, so understand anything I'm going to say is not talking bad about my father. It's just truths.
Is what it is,
It's just truths. But, I grew up with no direction, really. Nobody ever talked to me about what to do after school, about goals, ambitions, college. So I just really never got into that, My parents got divorced. It was a very, very bad couple of years.
Really?
Very bad couple of years. My mom got immediately into a relationship with an extremely toxic man. And, he would make me, when I was in maybe seventh grade, he would make me drink wine coolers in the evening until my mom went to bed. And then he would stay up and make rum and cokes for us until 2 or 3 in the morning, talking to me about horrible things he did in Vietnam, or how to rebuild a Harley,
or
whatever.
Gosh.
And
you're in junior high?
At the time, I really hadn't exposed myself to drugs or alcohol at this point in time, But
as you shouldn't in junior high,
Yeah, but what I found was that after a few times of doing that, I didn't feel anything anymore. You know, and I was this kid that I think I covered it pretty well, and people didn't see a lot of it, but I was a nervous, scared kid all the time. All the time. You know, I was afraid people were going to see through me and see that I was scared and that I wasn't as strong as I thought I had to be. And that fear just consumed me. Yeah. And so I found alcohol, you know, through kind of being forced to drink alcohol. And
Dude, that's crazy.
You know, yeah, it's interesting, you know, how it happened. And, you know, then my mom just kind of lost control of me. You know, she took on the role of a best friend.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know she's got a lot of regrets about that.
Did you have any siblings?
No.
Just
no,
you?
It was just me. And, you know, she knew I had a rough time. And, you know, so she just wanted to be my friend. She wanted me to have fun. And unfortunately, the fun that I chose to have, you know, was a lot of partying. A lot of girls spending the night, you know, and that led into a lot of drug abuse. And so, you know, fast forward, you know, to I graduate high school, and you know, everybody's talking about where, you know, what they're going to do, or what, you know, where college they're going to, and I had no idea. You know, I had no idea. I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to get up and work at Villa Pizza again today, because that's what. You know,
no kidding.
And you know, so I just kind of went on for a few years, and my drinking got worse, the drugs got worse.
What kind of drugs were you doing at this time?
You know, I started out with just marijuana. When I was 14, I got introduced to cocaine.
14?
Yeah. And I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. You know, I did a lot of hallucinogens. Took a lot of speed back in the day. Many thins, White Cross, stuff like that. You know, just pretty much anything I could get a hold of.
Yeah.
You know,
just to numb the pain.
Yeah, but if it could make me go fast too, I liked it even better. You know. So you know, I eventually I got in some trouble. In high school, I showed up to some exams drunk, and so I got involved with Seed Council as an adolescent, because that was school's policy, you know. You know, so I started in Seed there. I didn't want to change my life. I was having fun.
Yeah,
you know? I was having fun. You know, somehow I eventually made it and passed Seed's adolescent program. I don't know how.
Really?
but I did. You know.
What is Seed's adolescent program? Like, what is that? I'm not familiar
Seed,
with it.
it's Central East Alcohol and Drug Coalition, or whatever. It's like the Our House.
Okay, yeah.
It's affiliated with the Our House, and they had an adolescent program that I don't even believe they have anymore.
Really?
But they did one when I was in school. And you know, it's basically it's for at-risk teens or whatever. And but I didn't want to have anything to do with it. So you know, so I just kind of BS'd my way through it. I always had a way of charming people and being very manipulative when I needed to be. You know, and so you know, 2010. We're skipping a lot of time here, but I'll get back to.
What year did you graduate high school?
92.
92. Okay.
92. And ironically, I got sober for the first time in 95.
Really?
Yeah, and cause I got in some big trouble. I got in some big trouble. I I did something really stupid.
Yeah.
and I had to pay the price for it. But I got forced to go to AA meetings, and I found something there that I liked, you know, at a young age. And you know, from that time.
What did that put you at, 21, 22?
I wasn't quite 21 yet.
Okay.
I wasn't quite 21 yet, because I celebrated my 21st birthday sober.
Nice.
But, yeah, after about 5 years of that, you know, I just wasn't convinced that I needed it. You know, I thought maybe I was just young, and if I could keep the drugs out of my life, you know, you know, I tried to tried some controlled drinking. And, for some people that works.
Yeah.
For this guy, it doesn't. It doesn't. I ended up getting married to my first, wife.
How old were you when you got married?
20, 26.
26. So were you still sober then?
Yeah.
Nice.
I had 5 years sober, and then I had a slip up, and then I got sober again within a year.
Okay.
There, and then I had a couple kids, and was working at Donley's and just living what I thought was what I was supposed to be doing. I was miserable. I wasn't doing anything to enhance my internal self, my spiritual self.
But how many people, you don't know what you don't know. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I think how many people are stuck there not knowing what to do? They're miserable.
Yeah. And I can relate to that so well. And there's so many people like that out there. And
And being a barber, you probably have access to a lot of the men that come in with their haircuts. That you hear these stories and you're like, man.
Yeah. And that's one thing I love about my job is, that if I'm cutting somebody's hair, if I can plant a little seed of hope, then that's just that's just what it's all about for me. You know, it's just trying to plant little seeds of hope in people's life, because that's what people did for me along the way.
That's cool.
So I ended up with 2 wonderful children. They are going to be 20 and 22 this year.
Nice. Nice.
And was sober, for the better part of 13 years, but I was miserable because I wasn't doing church. I wasn't doing AA. I was just working,
existing,
and existing, and got back to not talking about my feelings, and I just lived miserably for a long time, and I didn't know why. I just thought this is what people do. I just thought this is a grind, and eventually, my ex-wife and I started having problems because I wasn't happy and I didn't know how to talk about it. So we ended up getting divorced.
How long were you guys married?
We were together 17 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And she's a great mom. She's a good person. We're different people. And
during this time frame, was alcohol or was anything substances involved that would cause your marriage to go downhill?
I had an accident at work, and I wasn't really forthcoming with my doctors, and I was taking mass amounts of pain pills.
Really?
Yes. And
those are addicting. Eh?
Very addicting. Yeah. And the next thing I know, I couldn't get a 30-day script, so it lasted me a week.
Really? Oh, wow.
So things got pretty bad there for a while. I eventually got some help there and got off of those. By that time, my marriage was pretty much, both of us had just decided not to put in any effort anymore.
Yeah.
Really. I don't want to say our marriage was hopeless because we never tried enough to see. But, things happened, in 2010, we got separated. My father, who I hadn't spoken to for almost 7 years, got diagnosed with cancer. And so I went over and we just broke the barrier down one day. I went to his house. We hadn't talked for 7 years.
Wow.
And I just said, look, we can spend this time arguing over who was right and who was wrong, or we can do something we've never done and just agree that none of it matters. And we did.
That's
and
cool.
I thank God every day that I was able to spend the better part of 6 months with my dad as he passed, and I was able to hold his hand as he passed.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's a tough conversation to have, especially with your dad.
Yeah, and so 2010 was just not my year.
So he passed away, and you got divorced in the same year.
He got diagnosed in March. My uncle passed away of a heart attack in May, and then in the middle there, somewhere, I got divorce papers.
Wow.
So I was angry.
Mm.
I was angry. I was angry at God. How could you do this to me? You know, you can't. This is too much to put on one human
Yeah.
being.
But through all this time, were you a believer? Did you?
Oh yeah,
You were.
yeah.
Nice.
I've struggled with it off and on. I've always believed.
Yeah.
You know, I've always believed. Did go through a period of time where I believed that God was punishing me.
Yeah.
I'm glad I see different now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it was just it was a lot, and I didn't ask for help. I didn't have good people to lean on that that I was reaching out to. I wanted to go drink.
Yeah.
I hadn't had a drink in a long time, and I know that I remembered that drinking made things hurt less.
And it's crazy because you can revert back to whenever you were in 7th grade with your stepdad making you have drinks and, numb the pain. I felt good.
Yeah,
And so then all those years later, you're still going back to that those childhood things. Isn't that crazy?
it is. It is, and that's why it's so important for us guys to just get raw with each other, to get vulnerable.
Yes, sir.
To talk about things that the guys just don't talk about.
Yep.
It's the only way to truly live your best life.
And to heal, to heal those emotional scars and those things that we deal with from our young age, because we all have stuff. We all have something that we're dealing with and we've dealt with, and we don't know who to talk to, we don't know who to tell about. Like you said, getting raw with somebody, and you can't get raw to just anybody.
No,
because
no.
There's one guy that's a buddy of mine. He's like, I don't tell people anything because I feel like they're out to get me. They're going to use that against me somewhere along the lines. I'm like, maybe ignorance is bliss in my case, because I'm just like, why would you use that against me, man? I'm being upfront with you. I'm being honest with you, being real, and who knows? But I feel like I'm kind of like an open book. I'll just tell anybody anything. And I feel like you're kind of the same way,
I am. I mean, I've been here my whole life. Any trouble I've ever been in's been on the paper.
As everybody knows.
So it's not a big secret
Yeah.
that I was a hopeless drunk for a period of time.
Yeah.
But so anyway, 2010 happened, and that lasted till 2013. In those 3 years, I went from a guy who had never done meth, never done heroin, and never used needles to a guy that was shooting up meth, coke, heroin, drinking fists of vodka a day.
Were you working at this time?
No. My dad had some money that he left when he passed away, and so I was taking some time to find myself.
Yeah.
That's what I like to tell
Oh,
everybody anyway. But things got really bad. Things got really bad.
For 3 years, you were just...
Yeah, just on one every
I've heard of those
day.
binge drinking weekends. You were a bender for a 3-year stint, huh?
Yeah, and my kid's mom eventually wouldn't let me see him. She would let me talk to him. There was still enough reality in my brain at the time to understand that was the best thing.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to see me like that. So I just...
Because they were still fairly young at the time, huh? They must have been, what?
Yeah,
10,
like 10 and 12.
Mm.
When all that was going on, and I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
That was my attitude. I didn't know how to deal with all this. I couldn't believe that this God that I had not shamed and I had accepted, and my whole life would punish me so bad. And I know this may sound kind of ridiculous, but this is just what was going through my head.
Well, you had a lot of trauma right there in a year, 12-month period.
Yeah. And it got to a point that my mom got a hold of a good friend of mine that didn't do all the drugs. He would go out drinking with me sometimes, but he just wasn't into all that. And she got a hold of him and put together an intervention at his house. And he called me and asked me if I could help him rearrange some stuff in his house. And I was like, sure. And I walk in the house and I noticed that his kitchen table has moved out of his dining room. He thought I was going to attack him as soon as I realized what happened.
Really?
And I sat down and I listened. And
when you saw what was going on, were you mad?
I wasn't mad because I knew that they were just trying to help.
Yeah.
But I was not receptive at all. And I told everybody there that cared about me, everybody but my youngest kids weren't there because they didn't know what would happen. But I told pretty much my whole family that I appreciated what they were doing, but it was just too late. They needed to accept the fact that I would be dead soon. And
dude, that's crazy. It's crazy for your loved ones to hear that.
I know.
And try to accept that.
Yeah. But that's where I was at the time.
It's crazy that you were mentally there, too. Like, you were ready.
Yeah. And, so it wasn't shortly after that, I was found in somebody's front yard in Charleston and about this kind of weather and just jeans and a T-shirt, unconscious. And,
really? Just in the snow?
Yeah. Yeah, I had overdosed. And I don't remember any of this, so all of this is basically coming from secondhand from people that were there. I was in a coma for a week.
No kidding.
Yeah. They actually had suggested that maybe my kids should come in and see me. They didn't know if I was going to make it out of it at the time.
Were you in the coma because of the drugs or because you're outside in the weather?
I'm going to get this wrong. One of two things happened. Either my blood pressure dropped and my heart rate spiked, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Something happened, and they had to intubate me. And I don't remember any of it.
Really?
I remember getting out of the hospital and wondering what in the heck just happened, But all I knew is I was dope sick. I was dope sick. I had been in the hospital and I'd not had heroin for a few days, and I remember my mom asking me. She said, "Is this enough? Is it enough yet?" And all I knew was that I was dope sick. I didn't remember any of it. My family, my loved ones, they had to live through it. They had to be there, But I didn't remember any of it.
That's tough.
So fast forward to 2013.
What year was this? Whenever you were in the coma and stuff?
That was probably the winter of 2012.
Okay.
And then 2013, I got arrested. I had some paraphernalia, and I got arrested and got charged with possession of heroin and possession of paraphernalia, and it slowed me down. It slowed me down.
Did it?
I got put back in jail, and I had to go back through treatment, and I did all that. I still just wasn't quite ready yet. I still just wasn't quite ready, So, a 2-year trial just to get probation is kind of crazy, but I got put on probation and didn't do anything any different than I had done before.
Yeah.
My probation officer was a very patient man, but eventually something happened, and I agreed to go to a treatment center in Decatur. They used
who suggested the treatment center? Was it like another intervention from your family, or were you just?
It was something I'd been talking. It was just time. Things were. It was getting bad. It was getting bad, and actually, my mother and my ex-wife decided to take one final stab at it, and so I agreed to go to this treatment center in Decatur. They used a medication to help you get off the opiates, and I stayed there for about 6 months.
Well, how long was the treatment supposed to be?
It was a 28-day plan.
Oh, a 28-day plan?
They had one halfway house room, where like extended stay room, and I was not ready to come back to Mattoon yet.
Really?
So
you tell them that?
Yeah.
Was your stint just 28 days? Then you added on?
Yeah.
Another 5 months?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was great. It was great. I was away from the people that I didn't need to be around, and I was just focusing on me for the first time in my life. I was dealing with issues that I had never dealt with before.
What do you think happened from the time you were using? What do you think happened that you thought, okay, it's time? Do you know, was there a day or was there an instance where you're like, it's time?
I don't remember exactly what day it was in essence to when I actually made the choice, but my daughter had actually told me, I love you, Dad, but I can't do this anymore. If it happens again, you can't be in my life.
Mm.
And that just gnawed at me. That just gnawed at me, you know.
I heard a quote recently just saying that most men know when it's time for that next chapter. They know when it's time to turn the page. And how many of us don't ever take action on that?
Yeah.
You know, that's the scary part, because like we talked about before, how long do you live unhappily? How long do you live in just being depressed and just not willing to take any action? Who is it? Is it Dave Ramsey that says, until you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're going to stay where you're at?
Yeah.
So, man, I honor you for taking that next step. So you're in this house at 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in there 6 months.
What do you do for 6 months? Like, what do you do the whole time you're in there?
I went to groups. I got a part-time job, just a downtown Decatur, washing dishes, you know, just to fill some time. And you know, I just went to AA meetings 3 times a day.
Really?
Had, you know, a counselor that I talked to, and just surrounded myself with people that were trying to better themselves.
So you were busy every day,
Yeah.
doing stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't just lay around. You
Yeah.
couldn't. You had to stay active. That was, you know,
Yep.
that was part of it. And just, you know, little things like getting up and making my bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I took so much pride in that.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
I took so much pride in that, because that's something that I never even thought of before. You know?
There's a great book on, I think it's called Make Your Bed, by some, I'm going to botch this, but some general or colonel in the military. But I just had that conversation with my kids the other day. I'm like, every morning you're going to make your bed. Like, why? Why are you so bent on telling us to do that? I'm like, because if the rest of your day sucks, at least you can come home and your bed's made and you're like, well, at least I did something productive today.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm the same way. Still to this day, I make my bed every single day.
Yeah.
So.
It started out when I went to the Hour House the first time. Yeah, you had to make your bed every morning. And you know, I was young, and I defied against everything, you know. But there was a lesson to be learned there, and it's about being intentional,
Yes.
and being productive, and having a set schedule, which is, you know, something that a lot of drug addicts, especially, don't know how to do. You know, we kind of have to be taught
Would
how
you say
to.
it's nice to have a little bit of structure in your life?
Yeah. So, you know, I got sober in 2013, and I haven't looked back.
Nice.
Yeah.
So going on 10 years.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, and you know, the amazing thing about it is, it finally hit me. I was talking to a gentleman one day, and I finally realized that, you know, my dad passing away, that was about his journey with God. My uncle passing away unexpectedly was about his journey with God. My divorce was about choices that we had both made.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that God didn't do anything to me. He was right behind me the whole time.
How powerful is that?
It was life altering, you know, and it felt so good to not be angry.
Yeah.
And realize that, you know, so many times we can go through life and think, that's just not fair. That's just not fair. But how many times are we a part of somebody else's journey with God?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And you know, I think, like you said, you know, how often we say it's not fair. You know, and I think the world we live in now, everything's so soft.
oh,
You know, well, it's not your fault. Don't worry about it. Blame it on somebody else. My kids, we're having a hard time now with one of my daughters blaming everything on everybody else. I'm like, we're not. We're going to nip that one in the butt right now.
yeah,
But, so, okay, so you spent 6 months there.
yeah.
How do you get back to Mattoon? How do you move on with your life after that?
Well, this is really what I think is the neatest part of everything, how everything unfolded. So I decided to stay in Decatur an extra few months. Well, right around the corner was Lockhart's barber shop, and so I started getting my hair cut there, and they did a great job doing haircuts. Got to know the Brandon Lockhart really well. He decided to open a barber school because he couldn't find any barbers, and he wanted to expand his shops. So Brandon Lockhart, you know, we had gotten to be friends, and he knew my situation. He called me, and he said, how do you think about going and being a barber? You know, and by the time we hung up the phone, I had already agreed to meet him that week and sign the contract.
No kidding.
And go forward with it. And
So were you like his first student?
I was in his first class.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was in the first 10 students that
Oh,
went
that's
through
awesome.
there. You know, and it was just, everything had to happen for the way it did. The ugly stuff had to happen. to land me in Decatur, and
Yeah.
then I just happened upon this barber shop, and everything unfolded. And I managed to get through barber school every day. My mother took me to Decatur because I didn't have a license.
Really? Oh,
She-
man.
and
Every day?
yeah, I worked about 32 hours a week and went to school about 34 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
So but I had to be intentional.
Yeah.
I had to just get stuff done. So yeah, my mom got me there and back. Every day. For a year.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I used to tell my story a lot in recovery based areas, and I've talked to you about this before. I gave my testimony at church one time, and it's really changed my view on my message. It's really changed a lot. My message to the right crowd is really intense.
Yeah.
Heroin addiction's ugly. I was 117 pounds when I went into treatment.
Whew.
My liver was failing. I mean,
Yeah.
It's easy to see. It's ugly. But what God showed me is that it doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. It doesn't have to be something illegal or ugly. It doesn't have to be something that's going to show on your outside. My question that I pose to people is, what's your heroin?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be as easy as shopping,
Yeah.
pornography, anger,
Working,
working.
overeating, binge watching TV.
Yes.
I mean, anything to
Yes.
numb that brain.
Basically, what I've come down to is this: is anything you reach for instant gratification that's not God can be your heroin. If it's if you regret what you're doing after you do it, if it's causing problems in your personal life, then there's a way out of it.
Yeah.
There's a way out of it. It doesn't have to just be people like me that get so strung out on drugs that they're almost dead.
Mm-hmm.
That can get better.
And you make a good point. What's your heroin? I had a phone conversation last night with the guy for like 45 minutes, and he was asking me about my stuff, and I said, mine, you couldn't see mine. Mine was pornography. Mine was gambling. Mine was lying to my wife. I mean, I was doing all these things, but you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But I was about to lose everything. Like, I was on the verge of literally losing everything until I came to hit my own rock bottom, and I'm like, if I don't change, things are going to change, and you're not going to be happy with the changes that are coming, Mike. Yeah. So, mine, you couldn't see them. That's what people are like, no way. I'm like, yeah, it was coming, man. My wife knew it.
Yeah, and it's neat to hear you say, you were going to hit your rock bottom, because people need to understand that those terms that you hear usually refer to people with alcohol or drug problems, or it doesn't have to be.
Nope.
Your rock bottom is whatever's going to make you lose the things you care about.
For sure.
Ask for help. Ask for help.
And that's a hard thing for men to do.
It is very hard for men to do.
Very hard.
And, this world we're living in is just changing and rapidly, so fast, and sometimes we just need to slow down. Sometimes,
and the sad part is that there's more help out there now than there ever has been.
Oh, absolutely.
But we still struggle with just saying, hey. And I think I'm trying to understand now when somebody's almost reaching out, but they don't want to say anything, but they're kind of hinting at stuff.
Yeah.
Then it's like a simple question, like, you okay?
Yeah.
I'm not. And then that'll open up a floodgate almost of just, here we go.
Yeah.
So no, it's tough.
It is. And for me personally, I'm real with people. Yeah. I'm real with people. I don't sugarcoat anything for them, because people sugarcoated stuff for me my whole life. Trying to cushion the fall. And as much as their hearts were in the right place, it almost killed me.
Yeah,
you can help someone to death.
It's almost like they're enabling you.
Yeah, you can enable someone straight to death.
Well, Jason, it's not your fault. It's not your fault this is going on,
Yeah.
But you're still the one making all the choices.
Yeah.
Of what you're putting in your body, what you're doing, and I think that
Yeah.
I was thinking about that just the other day. I keep my journal with me all the time, and I was journaling on, my life's where it's at because of the choices I make every single day. And I don't know, like there's probably statistics saying how many choices we make every single day.
Yeah.
But dude, there's so many choices all throughout the day.
Oh, every day.
Like you use the word intentional a lot. Like if you're intentional about these decisions, you can flip it. You know, I was reading about this just recently. Like, what's your change point? Like, when are you going to change? What's going to be the point that you're like, I got to change? You know?
Yeah, and that's the stuff that needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. You know, I think there should be more men's groups.
Mm-hmm.
You know, be it at churches, be it at neutral grounds or whatever. You know,
Yep.
just guys helping guys. You know, and that's not a knock on women at all. Women need to be there to help women. You know,
honestly, like women have a lot more of those support groups.
Yeah.
And, they do a lot more things like that. That's why when I started Structure You, I'm like, there's got to be a place for men. Because I know that I'm not the only one that has these struggles.
Yeah.
When we first started, there were guys that were saying a lot of different things on there about, at a young age being molested or being, used and things like that. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And even hearing that about you at a 7th or 8th grade, like being forced to drink, like that's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, and for years, I never talked about it because, I didn't want to get called names, it's just fear, fear can consume you.
And I think still that's a part that's tough for men because I know that men will look at me and be like, dude, you're just, the definition of a man, it's pretty broad, and some men will think, well, it's hard, dude. We don't talk about feelings. We don't show emotion. We don't do these things. But I'm like, a real man does. A real man does those things. Like I have these hard conversations with my kids. Yeah. I apologized to my kids this morning about something I flew off the handle for them. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you guys. But there's, just being able to, I don't know that my dad ever apologized to me, So to me, be able to apologize to my kids, like, hey, I don't enjoy getting angry with you. I don't enjoy when there's heated conversations, but let's bring them back, let's love on each other and we'll be all right,
Yeah, and there needs to be more of that in the world. There needs to be a lot more of that in the world, One thing I do that I learned in treatment that I do every day and every night is, I get up every day and I do my morning prayers and I remind myself to be respectful, to not hurt anyone, and to be the best person I can be. Mm. And at the end of the day, when I'm laying in bed, I just reflect on my day a little bit. And I'm like, oh, man, you were kind of a jerk there.
So you got a little structure in your life, a little morning routine, a little evening routine.
So, when of course, I'm not perfect. Mm-hmm. I do, say things I regret, and we all do, But the thing is, if you take that time at night just to reflect upon your day, you have the opportunity to right that wrong the next day.
Yeah.
And not let bitterness build,
Yeah, that's good.
But you can't go through that being this macho guy.
Yep.
That doesn't take any crap, that, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've tried it. And,
I mean, at some point, haven't we all tried it? I mean, maybe not Carson over there, but the rest of us have.
I've gotten to a point to where, you know what? If you think I'm weak because I talk about my feelings, it's not my business what anybody else thinks of me.
Yeah, there you go, man. And how many of us have a hard time getting past what people think of us? We're stuck in fear of not doing something we really want to do because we're fearful of what that person can think of us, what they're going to find out about our past.
Yeah.
When realistically, it doesn't matter. None of that stuff. My past, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
I have no reason to even. I mean, I reflect on it, see where I'm not going back to, but it's not even in my rearview mirror. I'm looking out that front windshield.
Yeah, and that's when you finally, for me, things finally changed when I quit looking behind me.
Yeah.
I quit looking behind me. I came to terms with the things that have happened in my life. I don't hold bitterness or resentment over the mistakes that people have made that have affected me.
Yep.
I've made a lot of mistakes that have affected a lot of people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love nothing more than forgiveness for the wrongs that I have done.
Yeah.
So in order to get forgiveness, you have to be willing to give forgiveness.
Yes, for sure.
And just asking for help. That's the biggest thing. And if anybody that's listening to this, if you come to my barber shop, talk to me.
Yeah.
Barbershop's like Vegas. What happens there stays there.
Yes. So you graduate from college. You got the barber college, and then how do you get to? You just decided to open up your own shop.
Well, I got asked to work in Decatur at my instructor's shop for 6 months. My plan was to open my own shop, and just through a strange series of events, I ended up in Tuscola because they didn't have a barber there, and I did that for about 3 years. I leased a shop there, and then we made the decision it was just time to come back home.
Yeah,
and so we moved the shop back to Mattoon, and it's been.
And I honor you for that because you could have stayed in Tuscola where nobody necessarily knew your background, knew your past, but you said it's time to come home.
Yeah, but for people like me and maybe for a lot of people too, that's a slippery slope. I got to a town that no one really knew me.
Yeah.
I at the time I wore old school vest and tie, and the guys loved it. The guys were happy to have a good barber in town. I started noticing the girls getting looks from girls, and my ego got a hold of me. And
ego, I like that.
That started to cause an issue. Fortunately, I got a hold of it in time. But too much success too quick is a dangerous slope too. So it just came to the point where I asked my wife if she could come do the books for the shop. And
how long have you been married now?
4 years.
When did you got remarried? 4 years ago. Nice.
Yeah, and so she started coming up to the shop, and things just started. We connected.
Yeah.
It wasn't just my barbershop anymore. It was
cool.
our business, and it stayed our business.
That's awesome. That's cool. And so now you're back in Mattoon now.
Yeah.
Now you've got yourself, another guy, and you just hired a third one, right?
Yeah, we just hired a third one, Jordan. She just started this week, and things are going amazing.
So what an incredible story! You piece it together.
Yeah.
From passed out in a guy's yard in a coma for 7 days, you go to get help in Decatur, where you come across the barber shop.
Yes.
Who then asks you if you want to go to barber school, and now you have a very successful barber shop.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
So isn't it cool too? I think people ask me a lot, like, what do you regret in life? Like, do you have any regrets?
Yeah. I regret hurting my children.
Yeah.
I've made my amends with that, so I don't live in regret.
Yeah.
Of anything anymore, because
you wouldn't be where you're at today.
And it's because I take that inventory at night, and I have to be intentional. I use that word a lot, but that I need to. I have to be intentional. I have to be structured. I have to be driven, and it's not chasing money. Mm-hmm. It's not chasing fame. It's chasing happiness.
Dude, you make such good points. I just listened to a podcast today where it's talking like the most successful people in the world, and I don't care how you define success. Is it money? Is it time with my family? Is it relationships? But they all have structure in their lives. If you want to be healthy, you're on a diet. If you want to have more money, live on a budget. If you want to have a happy life, like for me personally, I know I have to be structured every hour of the day so that I can be focused and get towards my goals. And like you're saying, like when I'm structured, it's leading me towards more happiness.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, and I mean, life is good today. Life is good. There's still some areas in my life that need worked on. There's some relationships that I'm still trying to mend, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because there's still an opportunity to do that today, because I woke up and made the first right choice this morning, and that was to get up and thank God for waking me up.
Mm.
And every day I do that, I have a chance.
New opportunity.
To just continue improving.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a barbershop. You're planting seeds every day.
Oh, I love it. And I love cutting hair.
Yep.
I mean, the act of cutting hair, the end result, I love all of that. But what I truly love is the conversation.
Yeah.
Is the conversation. Yeah. And just connecting with people. I've made so many friends.
That's awesome.
I've had an opportunity to help people through situations that maybe they bring up, and I've been through a lot in my life.
And
so I have some
as
insight.
a barber, like it's just most of the time people just want you to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's I feel like it's a I feel like it's a blessing to me
For sure.
that I get the opportunity, to talk to so many men every day
Definitely.
and try to be a positive role model.
Yep.
I feel like for a lot of years I didn't put much good into this community.
Yeah.
So I try to today. I try to give back to
Dude,
the
that's awesome.
community today, and I really branching out and trying to get people to see that there's all this focus on the opioid epidemic, which there should be.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much focus on meth around here, and there should be. But those aren't the only things that can bring a person down and make them hit rock bottom. And it's the hard things to talk about that I want people.
Yeah. And those things they're obviously terrible, but those are also the escape.
Yeah.
What are we escaping from? Let's find the root of the problem.
Yes.
For me, it was just issues from my childhood. You
Yeah.
probably every person, it's something that stemmed from our childhood that we just don't want to deal with.
And at the root of all of it is fear.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing for me to say for so long because I was fearless.
Yeah. I'm a man.
Fear consumed my life.
Yeah.
Consumed my life for years. And it's no way to live.
It's not.
It's no way to live. I don't live in fear today.
And you're a different person now.
I know that God's walking right beside me every day.
Yeah.
And who can hurt me when
Oh,
when you
amen to
have
that, brother.
And it took me a long time to get to that point. I'm
Yeah.
not there every day.
Yeah.
I don't want to come across like I've got it figured out.
Yeah.
I know what I need to do.
Yep.
It's just a matter of
and I don't know if it's the enemy, if it's God, but he throws us those test days every once in a while to say, you still on track, bud?
yeah.
But well, Jason, I tell you what, man, I really appreciate you stopping by here. Do you have any
That's
words
great.
of wisdom, last piece of advice you want to give everybody on your way out?
One of my favorite quotes in the world was from Gandhi. And I think everybody should hear this and think about this. And it's very simple. It's you must be the change you wish to see in the world.
Mm. And some people won't understand that.
And that's okay, because hopefully they will someday.
And do you have an example? Because I understand what you're saying, but I think for a long time I heard that and I never understood it. But I've got an example for that. My buddy and I, we used to talk like, if our wives would just change, our lives would be so much better. If she would just do this, my life would be better. And one day we sat down and we said, how about we change? We want to see what the change that we want in them. We'll do it. And we met back a month later and we're like, dude, did you, my life's gotten a lot better. How about yours? Like, yeah, exactly what you said. You need to be that change first.
Yeah.
And I heard that on a podcast just somewhere yesterday. So to hear you say that, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've got a little thing in my bedroom that it just reminds me all the time that it's not the world's job to change to suit me.
Yes.
It's my job. It's my job to be that change that I want to see.
That's awesome.
And so that's pretty much what I'll leave everybody with. And
well, Jason, I sure appreciate it, and I'm glad that we got the opportunity to talk and hang out.
Yeah.
And I'll link everything to for you in the group, because you're in the group. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, you're in there, and you got a barbershop here in Mattoon. So good to go.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Yes, thank you.
See ya.